Hey all, here's the next video. So again, I'm working on this Acquisition Theories 2020 spreadsheet that is posted on Blackboard, and there are two tabs on here. So one has the solution, this one does not. I'm just going to type stuff in as we go for the sake of demonstration. I've already done the acquisition difference calculation because it's the same as proportionate. Okay, we paid $72,000 for 80% of a company, so there's an acquisition difference of 16,000, and we're going to allocate it based on 80% of the difference between fair and carrying for those assets. So again, this method you're not responsible for, but I do want to just kind of walk through this step. So we're going to include all of the carrying value of the assets and liabilities, the net assets, because we control them all. But we are only going to pick up our share of the difference between fair value and carrying, because essentially we're saying we're willing to pay that difference, but maybe others aren't, or we really have no evidence that the fair value is that much higher. So we'll pick up all of the carrying amount of the asset we control, but we're only going to pick up 80% of the difference between fair value and carrying, because that's how much we bought. So we only include our 80% of the goodwill. NCI on all our problems going forward, anything you'll have to do is an equity account. Okay, it's an equity account that represents the ownership by others. Under the parent method, it was a liability, but again, don't worry about it. So again, same acquisition differential. What are we going to include on the parent company's balance sheet? Well, we're going to include the carrying amount plus 80% of the difference. So let me just make sure I get the signs right. It's going to be nothing on this one, but so I got 12 fair value minus carrying amount times 80%. And because fair and carrying are the same here, it's the same. So I'm just going to copy this down. And let's look at inventory per se. I'm going to include 21.6 on my parent company balance sheet, and that 21.6 represents the 20,000 carrying amount plus 80% of the fair value difference, representing the 80% of it I bought. Same with the plant, same with the patents. Right? $11,000 carrying amount minus 80% of the $1,000 difference gives me the 10.2. I calculated goodwill, same as proportionate because we're basing it on the 80%. And that gives me my total balance sheet. Again, I need to reverse the math on these ones, so I guess I might as well do it here. So it's going to be the carrying amount let's do plus the carrying amount minus the fair value times 0.8. Let's see if I did that formula right. I should get somewhere 24 and change. Nope. Let's put a minus in here. That looks better. Okay, so it's the 22,000 plus 80% of the difference between 22 and 25. I have NCI here. What is the NCI? Well, it's 20% of the carrying value. So if we look at the carrying amount of the sub, it's equal to, it's equal to my assets minus my liabilities right? That's the carrying amount, and the NCI is going to get 20% of that. So equal to 70,000 times 0.2. So 20% of the carrying value belongs to someone else. Okay, and then if I just want to do my check again to see, am I picking up $72,000 of net assets? Because that's how much I invested, so it's kind of my match. So I'm getting 118.4 of assets minus these three liabilities, because NCI is a liability. Life is good. Okay? So kind of in an order here, INA is the next step, but I'm going to do the fair value entity method first because it makes more sense this way. And it's much easier, I think, calculation than the one above. So in this one, we're going to record all net assets at fair value. So we get the full fair value of every asset and liability and the goodwill. Okay? NCI is equity, as it will be in all cases, and this is acceptable under GAAP. So the acquisition difference calculation we're going to do ongoing is just a little bit different. We paid $72,000, and we need to figure out, okay, if we paid $72,000, what's the whole company worth? So I'm going to divide by 80% here. So equals 72,000 divided by 0.8. So that calculation is telling me that because I paid 72,000 for 80% of a company, in total that company is worth $90,000. So we're going to look at the company as a whole. So when we look at carrying value, we're going to look at the carrying value of the company as a whole. So the 100,000 minus the 30,000 liabilities. So my acquisition difference here is 20,000. Okay, when I allocate this, I'm going to look at the total asset. So I don't have to worry about that 80% math anymore. It's the total difference. So inventory, I'm not going to do formulas here just because I know the numbers from doing it a couple times. The plant, 59 minus 50 is 9,000. The patent, the fair value is less, so it's minus 1,000. And the long-term debt, 25 to 22, again, it's a minus, so it's 3,000. Oops. That's my acquisition difference, and that leaves me with goodwill of 13,000. Okay, so exactly the same calculation as we've been doing, except for we're not basing it on our consideration. We're basing it on 100% of the sub, using our consideration as the calculation. And I'll go into a different way of doing that in the next video because I want to get this done. So what do I include on the parent company balance sheet? Again, much easier. I'm just going to include fair value. My goodwill I calculated. My liabilities I'm going to pick up fair value. And then I've got NCI. Again, this would be an equity account. And again, this is a little more straightforward, I think. We bought 80% of the company for $72,000. The NCI has 20%. So 20% of the $90,000 value of the company belongs to them. And let's see if this worked for us. My total assets are 123. I subtract off my liabilities and my NCI that's sitting in equity. and there's my 72,000. So again, I'm just doing a test here to see I'm picking up 72,000 in net assets comparable to what I paid for the investment. I'm going to cut this off here because it's around 10 minutes and I'll start a second one. Thanks all.